The following is a presentation of the TNH Podcast Network.
Just shut your mouth, Kyrie. The media is going to do the media's job. They're going to exaggerate stories. Just play basketball. Who cares what the media has to say? It all matters what you do on the court. It doesn't matter what rumors are spreading. It doesn't matter what headlines are going around. Play basketball.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the third episode of the Hoopcats podcast on the TNH Podcast Network. My name is Sam Eggert, and I'm here alongside my friends from the UNH club volleyball team, Yanni and Matthew Erb. Guys, say what's up.
How we doing, everybody? Ready to be back at it again.
Good morning. Before we start today's episode, I'd just like to dedicate this to my dog, Rocky P. Eggert, who passed away last night at the age of 15. He lived a long and glorious life. He fought through a lot of difficult times, but he powered through it. And he was a great dog, and rest in peace, Rocky P. Eggert. August 28th, 2004 to February 28th. He'll be remembered in good spirits by my family and everybody who met him. Now back to the basketball. Today we're going to be doing our All-Star Weekend recap. Granted that we missed last week, so we'll be getting to that. Yanni will have his next up with Roy Hachimura as the focus. We're going to do a little bit of Kyrie talk, a little bit of Laker talk, and a little bit of Warriors losing to the Magic talk. But for now, let's start it up with the All-Star Weekend. Team LeBron, they made that comeback. Everyone thought that Team Giannis was going to get the dub for majority of the game, but KD really stepped up and did his thing. Guys, what was your takeaway from that game?
I'll start. So I had Team Giannis the whole time. Talking to all my friends, I thought Team Giannis was the team that was going to play harder. I thought they were going to have too much of a lead for Team LeBron to come back, and it was going to be over. But I felt like this was one of the All-Star games where defense and just energy from both sides picked up way earlier than I expected at all. I felt like both sides were playing hard defense middle of the third quarter. And easy layups were still getting off, easy dunks, but I felt like defense picked up increasingly at that point, and it was a whole different All-Star game than what I've seen. I still think the All-Star game's a little overrated in my opinion, but I thought that the intensity picked up way earlier than past years.
Yeah, I have to agree with Yanni. I wanted Team Giannis to win. I really did. I thought they were going to play a little harder. Team LeBron just seemed too good with the amount of... Because I think if you look at the starting five, clearly had better talent on Team LeBron, and I was really happy that I think Team Giannis was up by at least 20 a few points during the match. Then, of course, between Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, and Klay Thompson, those tremendous shooting ability, they sparked that comeback. I'm so glad Durant gets recognized for his greatness. I think he's the best player in basketball right now, and I'm glad that he picked up that MVP. It was well-deserved. If Team Giannis won, it was obviously going to Giannis. That man dropped 38, had some amazing highlights. You know, I like the All-Star game. I liked the way they did the draft. I just wish that Joel Embiid and Russell Westbrook were on different teams. I would have enjoyed that a lot more. But I think it was a, decent All-Star game, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I think we just saw a tale of two halves. Second half, Team LeBron outscored Team Giannis to 96-69, oddly enough. So I think that once a team with Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, although Leonard didn't even have a great game, but LeBron, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, who didn't even play well, Damian Lillard, once those guys turn it on, I don't care who's on the other side of the court. Like, I get it, Giannis, Paul George, Steph Curry, but I think that the depth of Team LeBron is really what did them in. Guys like D'Angelo Russell, Kyle Lowry, Dirk Nowitzki, if we're even going to count them in this conversation, Chris Middleton.
3 for 3 from 3, Dirk?
I'm not disrespecting it, but I'm talking about on the defensive front. In an All-Star game,
Factuals.
They're just not going to keep up with anybody. And I just think that, I will say one of the storylines that I liked a lot from that game was Chris Middleton coming in and just bucking down threes once he got into the game. I thought that was awesome because I'm a big Chris Middleton fan.
I think his run of threes, and then I think Damian Lillard's run of threes that Matt was talking about was
the logo.
arguably the logo. From the logo, he was like it was a layup.
Replace Jerry West? Anybody with Dame as the logo? Is that gonna?
Might as well. He's on pace.
I thought Chris Middleton played like an all-star that game for sure. I didn't necessarily agree that he should have been an all-star.
Who'd you have over him?
I would have had Andre Drummond. I think he's a great and he hasn't even got the respect that people. He's the best rebounder in the game right now.
I respect that choice.
He's what do you think? He's averaging 13 or 14 rebounds a game and double digits in scoring. He may not be as flashy, but I think like when I saw the Chris Middleton, I was just thinking. I don't even remember any. I'm thinking all about Giannis when I think of the Bucks. I completely forget about Chris Middleton, which is a sin on my part. But I just, I don't get me wrong. Chris Middleton played absolutely like an all-star that game, and clearly he deserved it if he was playing like that and shooting.
He was
like that.
whopping down threes left and right. He played a damn good game of basketball. Speaking of three-pointers, Joe Harris winning the three-point shootout. Beating out Steph Curry, and who was the other guy he beat out?
Buddy Hield.
Buddy Hield. Two great shooters. Joe Harris also holds the best three-point percentage in basketball at 47.1 right now as of March 1st. Joe Harris, I mean, did you guys expect this? I can say that as a Nets fan, a so to speak Nets fan, I surely did because I've seen him all season. He's been phenomenal from three and from mid-range too. Who do you guys have winning, and were you guys surprised by Joe's win?
Yeah, so I think people who you were talking about didn't exactly know what Joe Harris does and what he does for the Nets, didn't expect him to do what he did. I honestly like Joe Harris from the start. I would have loved a little Seth Curry action defeating Steph, but obviously I think Joe Harris was one of the best shooters in that contest, and it just shows that if you can shoot the three, you have a spot in the NBA. Joe Harris, out of college, he wasn't this flashy stud player, but now that he has the ability to shoot knock down at a consistent rate, he has a spot in the NBA, and he's winning three-point contests against arguably the best shooter of all time.
Yeah, and with him developing his shot, he's also developed more of a game where he can attack the basket and play good defense. What was your take, Matt?
Sam, I know you were happy about that victory for sure.
Yeah, very much so.
I was not expecting it. I had my vote for, I believe, we talked about it. I think I had Buddy Hield winning it. I was kind of hoping for that Steph Curry matchup, and unfortunately Seth Curry couldn't get it done, that first round. But, I thought it was well-deserved. I thought Joe Harris really made a name for himself because that was not a name I recognized right off the top of my head when I saw him shooting.
Can we also talk about how poor the legend shot? I mean, Ray was knocking down four-pointers in the celebrity game, and he couldn't hit any threes in the three-point contest.
Yeah, I think Yanni's referring to when Steph Curry's dad made that wager, and then they all Ray Allen came out and shot from the perimeter, and he absolutely made nothing. And I was like, damn, Ray Allen, that's not a good look. But I can't even remember who the other guys were, but they didn't shoot. And I think Steph Curry. What's Steph Curry's dad's name? Dell. I think Dell shot from both the corners, and I think he made 3 or 4 out of 10 of those. So, I mean, I forget what the money was going to, but it was obviously a good cause. So I'm glad that worked out very well.
I'm a big Mark Price and Glenn Rice were the other two who participated. I've been a big Mark Price fan because he's surprisingly enough my favorite player to play with in NBA 2K, particularly on blacktop more than in actual regular game mode. But Price was one of the first three-point shooting point guards we'd seen in the NBA who really did it in a high volume. But yeah, these guys are old. They're obviously maybe a little bit past their prime, so can't really blame Rice, Price, and Curry. But Ray Allen, he was in the league 2 years ago, and he was shooting well 2 years ago. So I don't know what happened with that. As for the skills challenge, our hometown hero Jason Tatum took home the title over Trae Young, who I personally thought was going to win. What do you guys see there?
I mean, as I said on the last podcast, whoever wins the skills challenge is the first person to hit that three. I mean, if you can shoot the three ball, you're going to win. The rest of the stuff is arguably a waste of time. I think you might get a little bit of advantage ahead of your competition, but it's just that last three-pointer that seals the deal. And obviously Jason Tatum had a hint of luck with the half-court shot, but that's just how the skills competition will go every single year.
Yeah, that was, besides the actual All-Star game, that was my favorite portion to watch for the All-Star weekend. I loved every name that was in there. Trae Young did absolutely well, and obviously Jason Tatum got lucky on that last shot, but he played Trae Young, right? Am I remembering that correctly? In the last round?
Young beat Doncic to get him in the finals.
So I love that Jason Tatum won, and I thought it was a very entertaining skills challenge for sure.
Yeah, I thought Fox was going to win that because of his speed, but Tatum won, and I'll take that. As for the dunk contest, Hamidou Diallo, that Superman dunk, that was one of my favorite dunks I've seen in a long time. I thought we got a pretty good dunk session out of that. What do you guys think?
Sam, I want badly to agree with you. I just can't put my mind to it at this point anymore. I feel like the dunk contest is just like, it's gone. It's not, we're never going to get a dunk contest like we've seen. We're always going to compare the dunk contest we've gotten to the great dunk contests of maybe the most underrated of all time, Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon, the Dominique versus MJ, all those dunk contests that resemble in our minds, all these dunks that we've seen, they not only try to be replicated, but I just don't think they'll ever be touched because they were the first to get done.
I was rooting for John Collins that one, and obviously he had a little bump in the road with that. I like the concept with the Tuskegee Airmen, but obviously sometimes it happens where you trip. I have to disagree with you. I like the Superman dunk. Don't get me wrong, that was awesome. But Dennis Smith Jr. missed a bunch of open dunks.
That's
Obviously, and whoever Miles Bridges, right, was the other guy. He missed a lot too, and they got to change that. They gave him 30-point scores for not even getting it in the damn hoop. So.
I think that the biggest problem with the dunk contest, obviously the originality. I mean, there's only so much you can do with all these players doing. There's only so many dunks you can really do. All of that being said, the biggest problem comes with the judging. If they see anything that they find remotely impressive, everyone's giving it a 10. And what does that lead me to think about? It leads me to think about One Bite Pizza reviews. One Bite Pizza reviews and professional figure skating have one thing in common. There is no such thing as a perfect 10. If you go into decimals, that allows for a more specific score, and you can really wager each dunk against each other rather than just saying, oh, whoa, that was sick. That's a perfect 10. Let's just give every dunk a 10. Dennis Smith Jr., he had a pretty good dunk, give it a 10. Hamidou Diallo, he had the best dunk of the contest, give it a 10 or a 50 or whatever it is. If they allowed the judges to maybe give somebody like a 7.9 or an 8.4, whatever they thought it was, or even a 9.7 if they really thought it was that good, which is what I would have given the Diallo dunk because I liked it a lot. I think that would fix a lot of the problems that we have with the dunk contest. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think another problem was that I'm glad they're giving these young guys a chance, but I don't really care if I see John Collins or those people. I want to see Giannis. I want to see Zach LaVine again. Obviously,
Collins is a stud, though.
I think obviously, but I'm thinking, who would you rather see do a dunk contest, Giannis or John Collins?
I'll take Giannis, but I'd love to have a dunk contest with both Giannis and John Collins.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather have bigger names on these, and obviously I think Zion Williamson is gonna, if he's healthy, will be a part of that as well.
So with all the technology today, how about we just get rid of the whole judging panel, have a downloadable app, and have a little fan vote for dunks? I feel like the judges sitting at the table obviously get like a great view of it, but everyone at home and the people that are watching have way better opinions, and they're not in that moment exactly. Thoughts on that? A little fan vote dunk contest?
Well, I mean, Dr. J has seen so many dunk contests that he probably doesn't know one dunk from another, so I think it would be good to get another perspective from it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea, but then we have this problem of, the Luka Doncic experience where he was voted in as a all-star, but obviously compared to some, especially in the West, he wasn't really deserving, so we could have that problem, but I think it's a good idea to have, or at least incorporate it into the scores or something.
I think it would be cool if we had like their peers up there judging, because I feel like they'd be a little bit more critical, like maybe if James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and like some other well-spoken players were up there, then that could be pretty cool. Moving on from the All-Star weekend, Yanni, let's do some next up.
All right, so my next up player of the week, I will be giving this to Rui Hachimura with Gonzaga moving up to the 1 seed now. First day of March. It's time to start talking about the tournament. It's time to start talking about who we think is going to excel. It's time to start talking about who's going to increase their draft stock. And people only know Rui Hachimura for his one game against Duke out in Maui, where Gonzaga beat the supposedly at the time unbeatable Duke team. And I really like this kid. I think he does have a role in the NBA. He's a junior this year from Japan. He has increased his minutes. He's increased his scoring every single year. His shooting's gotten much better.
Not to mention his rebounding.
His rebounding is incredible. He's shooting 46% from three, given he doesn't take a lot of threes, but he's shooting an incredible mark from three this year. And he will prosper on a team because he's one of those guys who works hard. A lot of people don't see him play throughout the whole entire year. Gonzaga goes out west for their conference schedule and almost disappear. They get some games against BYU, some games against, I don't even know who else plays in their conference, but they just disappear, and so guys like Rui Hachimura do disappear. Rui Hachimura at one time was a top 5 projected pick. He's dropped down to, in the latest mock draft I've seen, number 14. So he's still averaging his 22 points a game, and he's still rebounding the ball at about 7 rebounds per game, but he's not getting the credit that he deserves. And I think once people start seeing it in March, his draft stock is going to rise. He's going to make a top 10 splash in the draft, and he is going to excel on a team.
I like Hachimura's game a lot. Looking at his last 5, he got 22 points against Loyola Marymount, 22 against San Diego, 23 versus Pepperdine, 23 versus BYU, and then on Thursday he had 27 in an 86-66 rout over Pacific, where he shot 11-16 from the field. I feel like every game where he plays well, he's shooting really efficiently, which is something that I really like about his game and something that will translate to the NBA. Even if he's doing it on a lower level, he'll still be effective. Another thing I like about him is he's just a big, athletic person. And in today's NBA, you need to be big and athletic. And he's got the body, he's got the size and athleticism to translate.
He's also got the drive, which I think is one of the most important things to have.
There's a lot of players out there who seem lethargic at times in the court, and those are the guys who are out of the league in 2 seasons. I think that we're going to be hearing Rui Hachimura's name for a long time coming, and I really don't want to see him drop to a lower pick in the draft, although I think that there's a potential that he may, because there are other names rising up on the board. For example, Yanni, you like to talk about Jarrett Culver a lot. I'm not as big of a fan as you are, but he is a pretty good player.
One of my favorite in college. I'll do a next up on him eventually, but...
Yeah, and there's also guys like KZ, Okpala, Bruno Fernando, Cam Reddish rising up, Romeo Langford. But I think that you could argue, well, maybe not Reddish, but you could argue that Hachimura is better than a lot of those guys I just named. What's your take on that, Yanni?
Yeah, so a lot of the guys that you just named get more of a spotlight than Hachimura gets. Romeo Langford was one of the best high school recruits coming out of that class, and he kind of fell off because Indiana was falling off. But he is put more in a spotlight, in my opinion, than Hachimura is, even though Hachimura is technically on the number 1 team in the country. So Hachimura is not getting the limelight that he deserves, mostly because Gonzaga doesn't play the schedule that Duke plays with the national games aired and the ranked matchups, top 5 matchups. They don't get that. So he doesn't get the spotlight that he deserves, but he is most certainly deserving of that. Do I think Gonzaga is the best team in the country right now? No. But do I think Rui Hachimura is a top 10 player in college basketball right now? Yes, and I think he will make a splash.
He's a center, right? You're a power forward.
Power forward.
Power forward. You know, I like this guy. If Gonzaga's 1, then where's Duke? Did Duke fall to 4? 4? 3? Who's 2?
Virginia.
Virginia, okay. Yeah, you know, I like this kid. I do. He's definitely not going to be a starting power forward anywhere in the NBA right now. I think on some teams he can be a really good bench player, and on certain teams he might fluctuate from the G League. I think he's a great player, but is he better than some of these NBA big power forwards? Well, I guess we'll have to see. But I hope he can be a great bench player right now, at least his first year.
Yanni, what do you have for a player comp for Rui Hachimura?
Ooh. Off the top of my head, he's a guy who runs the floor. He's a guy who will just rebound for you. He's a guy who scores around the rim. Off the top of my head,
I've got one if you don't have one yet.
hit me with one. Let me think for a second.
Aaron Gordon.
I like that. Yes. Aaron Gordon has developed his game into a little something different, but the way he plays around the rim and rebounding, he can shoot the ball now too. I 100% see that. I like that comparison a lot.
I also see a little bit of the Morris twins in Hachimura's game.
Mm-hmm.
More Marcus than Markieff because of his effort and just ability to grind with guys up and down the floor, not really giving up on any play. He might not be as good of a off the dribble shooter as Marcus is, but who knows? Maybe he can develop that.
And the guy's strong. He's 6'8", 235. He is an incredible athlete, as you've mentioned. I think no matter what team he gets on, he will play a role at minimum, and there will be a splash in the league eventually.
Yeah, I agree. I see him coming in and having an impact wherever he goes because he's going to be going to a weaker team, and a lot of these weak teams don't have depth, so I think that he'll be able to have an impact wherever he goes.
And it may not be the immediate thing like Luka Doncic putting up, the numbers that he's putting up, but he's going to do a job.
Yeah, I don't see it like a Doncic-type impact. I see it maybe more along the lines of I want to say Kevin Huerter type impact, where he starts out not really getting like the burn, but people are like kind of recognizing that this kid can play, and then eventually maybe even leading into a starting role. But that might be a little bit far-fetched.
Right. Yes.
Moving on, the Lakers. I mean, Matt, you want to get us going with this one?
You know, right after All-Star break, we all know that LeBron said he was going to playoff mode. He's going playoff LeBron, and this man is an absolute stud. And by that, I'm joking because he's 2-2, and he lost to teams. He lost to a Pelicans or Anthony Davis less Pelicans, and a failing almost no Jaren Jackson because he's out, tanking Grizzly team at this point. And you got to see this guy playing defense. You really do. I don't know if it's his. I think it's more of an injury thing. I don't think he's not purposely trying. I think if he could, he would. He's old. He's 33, 34, right? So he can't get as fast as some of those young guys, but
yeah, but he can do better than standing under the basket. I understand Bruno Caboclo is not a great shooter. We all saw the video on Instagram, but he can do a little bit more than that, and that's something that he's been susceptible to doing in the past, even when he was younger.
Yeah, I mean, we all know lately the past couple of years he saves all his energy playing defense for the playoffs when it really matters because every single other year his playoff spot's been pretty much guaranteed. He didn't really have to work for it as much. He could, take defensive breaks on the Cavs and even on the Heat back in the day. But I don't think they're making the playoffs. I think it's way too late. I'm hoping. I love to see the Kings grab that 8th spot. I love to see a Kings Warriors matchup, especially since
they've had some damn good games this season.
Yeah, especially since I saw a stat that the Kings played the Warriors 4 times, but all those 4 games, the total points combined they lost by are 12. So they either lost, 2, 3, 5, whatever. Like these are all close games. The Kings love to play the Warriors. So I'm hoping they get that 8th spot. And I think it would have to be a miracle for the Lakers to make the playoffs at this point.
Looking at their upcoming games, the Lakers have the Bucks tonight, which obviously will not be easy. They've got a little easier route for the next couple with the Suns and Clippers coming up. Those are 2 winnable games. After that, though, Nuggets, Celtics, Bulls, Raptors, Pistons, Knicks. Aside from the Bulls and Knicks, those are a couple of games that they can really, really easily lose. Yanni, how do you see them faring over the next few?
All right, so I obviously am the biggest Laker hater in the room. I said at the beginning of February is going to be the month that determines everything because they had 9 games in February. I said at the start, they have a chance to not win any of those games. They are 2-7. They were 2-7 in those games in February, beating the Celtics and beating the Pelicans without Anthony Davis for 1.5 quarters. I think that they have no chance at all. At this point, I saw a statistic. They have a higher chance of receiving the top draft pick than getting into the playoffs. 6% to 3%. It is double. So with the schedule they have to play and with the guys that they have and LeBron pointing the finger at everybody. Matt, you were talking a little bit about this. His defense is terrible. Everyone makes him out to be one of these great defensive players of all time. I think LeBron is the biggest highlight defensive player of all time. He is an overrated defender as a whole. If you want to be a good defender in the league, you have to come in, night out, and play defense every single game, and he doesn't do that. He has his highlights. He is the best defensive play of all time in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, but if you want to be a good defensive player and recognized as a good defensive player, you have to play defense night in and night out. And this guy doesn't even play defense for a quarter, for crying out loud.
I'm not going to start this argument, and we're not going to continue this conversation. But Michael Jordan played defense night in and night out. He never had lapses. That's what makes him the greatest player of all time. End of story. Back to the Lakers. They're only 3 games behind the Clippers right now, who hold the 8th seed, and the Spurs, who are tied to the Clippers. So I don't think that they're really that far out of it. I think that if they have a surge, they can do it. I'm not going to say that they're out yet, but I'm telling you, man, if we see them lose to the Nuggets, Celtics, like with these next...
Their schedule's tough. There is no discrediting that. They have a extremely hard schedule to
with
play.
these next 7 games, if they drop 4 out of 7, I think we can throw the done chain on them because that's kind of hard to come back from. Because that means that they're only getting wins against teams like the Suns, the Clippers, and the Bulls, which isn't, frankly, that impressive in their games that they should be winning in the first place. It's really about these Bucks, Nuggets. I understand the Celtics have had their troubles, which we'll get to, and Raptors games that, is really going to see, do the Lakers have balls or do they not?
Yes.
Yeah, the Lakers should have been 1-8 in February. They got lucky. Rondo bailed them out, and the Celtics are having their own personal struggles. But it's just Tinseltown is not looking good right now. It really isn't. I don't even have anything more to say other than they better hope for a good draft pick at this point.
One last thing on this. You can mark it down. I think it's one of the last 3 games of the Lakers season. They play the Clippers, and that, if they do make a spurt, could be the deciding game of the Lakers season. Be ready.
Their last 6 games, they've got the Pelicans, the Thunder, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Jazz, and the Blazers. All 6 of those games are games they can lose.
Yes.
So,
and I saw a statistic that said 16 of the last 21 teams that they play, or games that they play, are all against playoff teams. It's not going to be an easy ride.
by any means. Moving on, let's talk about our hometown team, the team that has 17 championships to the Lakers' 16 championships, 4 of which aren't even real championships for the Lakers, but that's another conversation for another time. The Boston Celtics. Now look, I was a much bigger fan of Kyrie Irving back in the day than I am now. If Kyrie can't play with the Celtics, who are the NBA's model franchise, they have all these assets. They have Brad Stevens, who's supposed to be a great coach. I know he's a team-oriented coach, and that may be a part of the reason why Kyrie's not molding well with them. That being said, if Kyrie can't fit with the Celtics, where can he fit? I mean, I need somebody to explain this to me, because I just don't understand it.
Yeah, Boston ain't looking too good right now, and Kyrie keeps talking about just wait till the playoffs, just wait till the playoffs. Well, at some point, I don't think they'll go below fifth. I don't think they really got to suck to drop below the Nets because they're 5 or 6 games ahead of the Nets. But I'm worried, and I was confident a few weeks ago that Kyrie Irving isn't going to resign, and I truly believe that right now. I just think it's paining me to say it, but he's just.
I don't think the Celtics are going to try to resign him.
They're not gonna. If they do, they're not gonna offer him the full max. They're not gonna offer him the most they can offer him. I think they're gonna. It's because Terry Rozier is unrestricted too, right?
Answer me this, Matt. Do you see his value going down for the rest of the league, or do you think he'll still get a max contract?
I think he'll. That's a tough question. I think he's just so good and such a fun, interesting, lively player to watch that most teams are going to want him on their team, especially New York, L.A., Clippers, Lakers. They're going to want they'll offer him the max. They want an all-star like that. I think Boston should offer him the max. I'm not saying they will, but I think they should. I think you got to keep this guy. I think if you can, you should, and that gives you such a better chance to get Anthony Davis. And I've been on the record saying that I do not think they should trade for Anthony Davis if Kyrie's not on that team. Yes, Anthony Davis is a better player than Kyrie Irving overall, but I don't think it's going to make the difference, especially when you have a ascending Bucks team. I think the Raptors are going to get a lot worse. I don't think Kawhi Leonard's staying, and I'm sure one of the free agents on Philly isn't going to stay either. So whether it's Jimmy Butler or Tobias Harris, so I think Celtics are not the top team in the East now, and I don't think as long as Milwaukee's there are going to be. I think Milwaukee has a high chance of signing a free agent. Maybe not this season, but eventually in the future they can sign someone. Because that's a great team to watch right there.
Yeah, I just want to ask this question. When's the last time you guys felt good about the Celtics?
See, the pause is a problem.
Well, I can say when I felt good. It was in the playoffs last year when Irving was out.
Exactly. In recent memory, I can't name you a time when I was happy with the way the Celtics were playing.
I guess I was pretty happy with the way they played against the Sixers. Recent time, obviously, that's something to be said. Kyrie Irving was not playing that game, correct? Yeah. So Al Horford had a monster game that game. They play. I don't know. There's just something about Celtics that they play like animals when they play the Sixers, and I love to watch it. And I was proud of them then, but again, how proud can I be when it's only proving people's point that Kyrie Irving's not re-signing and the team, function is not necessarily better without him, but they function better without him.
My thing with Kyrie is I get he's one of the best offensive, craftiest players in the game right now, but do you guys think that his offense compared to like the rest of the Celtics offense is really taking it up that much of an extra notch in regards to how much he's actually bringing down our defense?
In the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, yes. For the rest of the game, no. Because he is the closer for this team. He's one of the best closers in basketball, which you really can't deny. And I think that adds a certain element to any playoff team, just knowing that you have a guy you can put the ball in his hands and he can get you a bucket really whenever you need it. So I think there's that to pay attention to.
Our offensive rating in the last 6 games, we've been 6-0 in the last 6 games that Kyrie Irving hasn't played, and we've been 0-6 in the games that Kyrie has played. In those games, Our offensive rating is only 6 points higher. Our defensive rating is 14 points lower. So you see where we're losing games, obviously on the defensive end, because teams are scoring more on us, putting more pressure on us, and Kyrie's offense isn't propelling us past the point where we have guys that I think could do the same exact job.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to see our home team struggle like this. And I guess to answer your question, Sam, because the main question you asked is where would he go? Where could he go? First off, you better believe I'm burning my Kyrie Irving jersey if he goes to the Lakers. Not because he's going to the Lakers, it's because he's joining back with LeBron. Now, that says a lot about him as a character. I think that would be a really weak move on his part, for sure. I'm really not buying into the Knicks part of it. I think Kyrie Irving really wants to win, and the Knicks are not the place to do that. I can't think of any place on the top of my head, but there are places out there that he can maybe do some damage if it's not the Celtics.
One team that I thought about that would really make sense for him to go to would be the Orlando Magic. They have a lot of pieces at the 2 guard. They've got Fournier at the 3. They've got Gordon. They've got Isaac playing the 3-4 combo. They've also got Vucevic, who's an proven all-star. They've got Mo Bamba coming off the bench. They've got a couple of guys who can actually play. Only thing they're missing is a point guard. DJ Augustine, yeah, he'd be a good backup point guard, but I think that if you put Kyrie Irving on that team, he has the ball in his hands whenever he really wants it, and he's also the pound-for-pound leader of that team, and he's also going to have guys around him who aren't pushovers like he had in Cleveland.
My last thing on Kyrie before we move on, just shut your mouth, Kyrie. The media is going to do the media's job. They're going to exaggerate stories. They're going to make headlines. Just play basketball. Who cares what the media has to say? It all matters what you do on the court. It matters what your mind thinks about what is going to happen in the offseason. It doesn't matter what rumors are spreading. It doesn't matter what headlines are going around. Play basketball.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Kyrie just needs to shut his goddamn mouth because he says way too much stuff. He demonizes the rest of his players, and one could really make a good argument that that's the problem. He's the problem. That's what I think it is. I think that Kyrie's gonzo like anything has ever been gone before. I don't want him back.
He doesn't act like he wants to be an all-star. He doesn't act like he wants to be a champion.
He's an emotional little kid who doesn't know when to shut up. He doesn't have enough respect for his teammates to treat them like men. He treats them like kids. It's nauseating most of the time to watch. I do love what he does on the court, though, so I'll give him that part of it, but he's really a frustrating guy to have on your team, and I'm becoming less and less of a fan day in and day out.
You know who also lately has been treating his teammates like kids? LeBron James.
Kyrie, LeBron James, starting to see a lot of similarities, and Yanni and I are both the biggest LeBron haters this side of the Mississippi, so
By far.
you can see our frustration there.
I got to move on before my head turns into absolute flames.
I'm starting to get a headache, but
poor Kyrie.
I brought up the Magic a little bit, and the Magic had a damn good game last night. They beat the Warriors. We saw DJ Augustine get his first 2 blocks of the season, both of which on Steph Curry. Don't know what that means, but it was a 103-96 win for the Magic. Aaron Gordon had a great game, putting in 22 and 15. Nikola Vucevic didn't really step up, but he had 12 points, 13 rebounds to go along with that. Terrence Ross continued his great play with 16 points. On the other hand, for the Warriors, they were without Kevin Durant, but Stephen Curry did what he does, poured in 33 points and 8 rebounds and 6 assists. Cousins had 21 and 11. Thompson had 21 and 3. Aside from that, nobody else scored in double digits, which brings me to my question. Is the Warriors' depth going to be an issue in the playoffs?
It could be, but this storyline is definitely more about the Warriors than about the Magic. Magic can be an eighth seed. I think they will be an 8th seed, but no one's really talking about the Magic right now. This is about the Warriors, and I hate to say, I'm definitely not going to say that them missing Kevin Durant is the reason they lost, because that's not it, because they have plenty of all-star power with Steph Curry. Steph Curry had 33 points. He shot 12 from 33 from the field. That's not good. 12 he had 33 points is good. 12 from 30, if you're taking 33 shots, 12 from 33 isn't the best for Steph Curry, especially. Klay Thompson shot 9 from 23. He had 21 points. Cousins had 21 points, 11 boards. Draymond Green has not been having the best year at all. Definitely a problem. It will be the depth for sure. I think with Kevin Durant, they'd obviously would have won that game because more shots would have came from Kevin Durant instead of 9 from 23 from Klay or 12 from 33 from Steph Curry. So, the Magic did their part. We have to also keep in mind that this is a back-to-back. They played the Heat. They lost to the Heat by 1 point on the game winner from Dwayne Wade the night before. So, but playing back-to-back in the NBA is not easy. I know it's only from Miami to Orlando. It's not the furthest, but you got to keep in mind some of those guys are tired, and some of those games are scheduled losses because it's hard. It's not easy to play back to back. on some of those cases, even if it is to the Magic.
It was definitely a trap game. I have to agree with you there. But I want to talk a little bit about Aaron Gordon. Do you think Aaron Gordon gets the limelight that he deserves? I think Aaron Gordon, if I had to compare him to someone else in the league and an all-star, I'd compare him to Blake Griffin. Is Aaron Gordon arguably does the same job as Blake Griffin and potentially even better?
You can't compare him to Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin's consistently putting up 23 and 11 and 6 on a nightly basis.
With the ball in his hands almost every single possession.
Yeah, that's true. They do run through Griffin entirely, but Griffin's a developed all-star borderline Hall of Famer, in my opinion, who's had a very, very seasoned career, and he's really come into his own coming into Detroit. That being said, Aaron Gordon, yes, he shows flashes of being a really good player, but his shooting, ball handling, and consistent effort are just simply not even close to being up to par with Griffin. So I got to disagree with you on that one, Yanni.
He's still young. I think you give him a few more years. Not only will he be better than the Blake Griffin you're seeing now, but he will be absolutely incredible.
I see the comparison between Blake Griffin and Aaron Gordon, but obviously, like you said, the ball runs through Blake Griffin's hands in Detroit, and I'd say the ball runs through Vucevic's hands in Orlando more than it does Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon is a good player. I don't think he's, like you said, as consistent. Against Toronto 2 games ago, he went 2 for 11 from the field, and that's not good. That's not something that can happen from an all-star for sure. So I definitely see the comparison. Blake Griffin's, no one's saying that, or Aaron Gordon's better than Blake Griffin by any means. None of us are saying that.
Yeah.
But I definitely see the similarities with that power forward position.
Looking to Blake Griffin's rookie year, he was still a more consistent player than I'd say Gordon is right now. So I really think that that's far-fetched. I think Gordon at his peak potential could be, I don't know, maybe 80% of what Blake Griffin is right now.
It's still coming along. Aaron Gordon also hasn't had pieces around him like Blake has had. Just give him some time.
What does Blake have in Detroit?
I mean, he's always
got
like Chris
Drummond.
Paul. He's got Drummond. I mean, it's just like another guy to focus on. I mean, Vucevic is another guy to focus on, obviously. But if you're picking between two guys, I had to agree with Matt. I would take Drummond over. Did you have Vucevic in there? Who would you pull out for the All-Star game?
Chris Middleton.
Chris Middleton. Same. I think Andre Drummond attracts more attention than Vucevic does. But in my opinion, I think if Aaron Gordon had another piece around him, I think he would just prosper that much more.
Also, I think if you switch Vucevic and Drummond, put Vucevic on the Detroit and Drummond on the Magic, I think the Pistons would be doing a lot better than they are. But Pistons should be doing a lot better. They got, I think, 2 All-Stars. I think Drummond has been an All-Star. I think he's a great player. And he's been out for like a few games or whatever, and so is Blake Griffin, has his moments. But Detroit should be, I think, ahead of the Nets. They're definitely a better team than the Nets.
I could not disagree more with that. I'm not trying to ruin your credibility or anything, Matt, but that is an uninformed take. The Pistons have 2 good players, and then after that, they fall off badly. The Nets benefit from having great depth up and throughout, and the only issue that you're seeing with them right now is that they have a lot of guys who've been injured. But you look at this Pistons team, you've got Drummond and you've got Blake Griffin. After that, their next best player is Reggie Jackson, who's one of the most inconsistent players in all of basketball. John Lure, not that good. Ish Smith, I like him a lot, but he's a defensive liability. Thon Maker, blech. Luke Kennard, he was good in college. Luke Kennard. Yanni likes him. He was good in college. Langston Galloway, he's a beefy point guard. He has his moments. He can be a good player at time, but nobody's relying on him for anything. Bruce Brown, Trae Young mixed him. Glenn Robinson III doesn't have a place in this league anymore, in my opinion. Jose Calderon's been in the league for 13 years. Svi Mikhailiuk, whatever. Zaza, whatever. Kyrie Thomas, whatever. I mean, it's not an argument. You look at the Nets. I can go through their roster. They have a bunch of notable players. Spencer Dinwiddie, borderline all-star. D'Angelo Russell, all-star. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson and Damari Carroll, both lockdown wing defenders. Alan Crabb and Joe Harris, both knockdown shooters, 2 of the better 2 guards in the game. In addition to that, Karis LeVert was playing like an all-star in the beginning of the season. Jarrett Allen, who's probably a top 5 rim protector in basketball. Shabazz Napier, he's a top 15 backup point guard in my opinion. They've got guys up and throughout. Rodions Kurucs, who's been one of the top 10 rookies in basketball this season. Frankly, the Nets have a lot of guys who can have an impact on any team in the league, and they're doing it together and playing really good basketball. And I didn't even mention Ed Davis, who's been the best rebounder in basketball the entire season.
Do you think, Just a quick wrap up. Do you think that the Warriors will end up pulling out the 1 seed, or do you think the Nuggets will end up sealing the deal? Because I believe they're either tied or the Nuggets have game advantage in the loss column.
They're currently tied. The Warriors are winning the season series right now, so they're the number 1 seed. I'm going to say that the Warriors stick with the number 1.
Warriors are one game. They've played one extra game over Denver, so that they're 43-19, and I think Denver's 42-19 or 18 or something. So they basically have the same record, except the Warriors have played one more game.
Yeah, I got it right here. Warriors 43-19, Nuggets 42-19. So moving on, Matt, you've got your ERB list. I'd like you to.
I think we're going to end off the podcast with this list, and I want to get you guys' take on this. And this is an interesting topic because I think the teams are pretty standard, but at the same time, yeah, well, the list of the top 5 teams that can beat the Warriors this season. And I think this is the most vulnerable the Warriors have been in a long time since 2016-2015 season. So let me get right into it. Number 5 on the list. You have any guesses?
I got a few.
The Kings?
Not for number 5.
You know, I like the Kings. I do. And that'd be awesome. But when I say beat the Warriors, this isn't just in the Western Conference. This is any team that I think.
Are you saying in one game, or are you saying?
I'm saying best of 7 series. I'm going with the Toronto Raptors. You know, Kawhi Leonard's a great player. I'm not sold on him being a top 5 player, and I'm a little worried about Kyle Lowry's health. I think, and the Raptors, as we all know, have a tendency to not play like themselves in the playoffs. And I personally think that the Raptors have the most depth at any team. I think they got Gasol as a backup center like that.
He's starting, isn't he?
I mean, Ibaka has been starting recently. I think they switch off. I've seen him start for sometimes, and I've also seen Gasol start too. And my point of being number 5 is that I'm not sold on them playing. And obviously Siakam is one of my favorite players recently.
I think I can sell you on the Raptors right now if you would like.
Let me finish the list because I want you to tell me why I'm wrong and if you're going to put the Raptors any above these 4 teams. 4th, I'm going with the Rockets. You know, James Harden has been doing James Harden stuff. He's doing unbelievable stuff. I think he deserves to be MVP this season.
58 points last night.
Yeah, 58 points, exactly. Chris Paul, the last couple of games he's been healthy, has been playing really well. Capella's back too. And Kenneth Faried, he's injured. I don't know exactly what he did, but I know he's day-to-day right now. He's listed as day-to-day. He was a great pickup for them as well. Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, these are all boys that can play. And I think if Rockets are on their game and are shooting well, they can beat the Warriors. And they're 3-0 in the season against the Warriors as well. Number 3, I'm going with OKC. Paul George has been having a monster year. Russell Westbrook averaging another triple-double for the 3rd year in a row. Another pretty deep team. I like Schroeder. I like the pickup of Markieff Morris as well. And I think that the Thunder bring a lot of intensity that you wouldn't normally see against some of the teams. I just think that Russell Westbrook is one of my favorite players to watch. He just, and same with Paul George. Paul George has been shooting the ball so well, and, they just work really good as a team together, and I really like that. For number 2, and this is where I think you guys are going to disagree with me. I'm putting the Nuggets. I think that Nuggets are a great team, and I think they're 27-4 at home right now. They have the best home record in the NBA, and I think that's purely on location. I think that if the Denver can snag that number 1 seed, they will beat the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. I think it is extremely hard to play in Denver for most teams, especially the Golden State Warriors, especially since they're playing more games than any other team in the recent years because they're always making the playoffs and the finals. And the Nuggets are just so used to that altitude. Jamal Murray's been playing excellent. Gary Harris, Will Barton, Sam, I know you love him. He's back. He's playing. IT is back too. I think he can give you 12, 10 points off the bench too. And I'm just really sold on that location. Number 1, I'm going with the Bucks because they added Mirotic. They have the perfect pieces around Giannis so Giannis can play his game. They have I think the coach of the year in Mike Budenholzer. And they have the best record. They will have the best record in the NBA this season. I think that between the pieces they've added, their bench, Ilyasova, all those boys, I think the Bucks clearly have the best shot to win the NBA. And I think they're coming out of the East too.
Can I sell you on the Raptors?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Dwayne Casey.
Great coach.
He's in Detroit.
Yeah, he is gone. Nick Nurse
DeMar
is doing
DeRozan.
things.
He's gone.
Yeah,
he's in
gone.
San Antonio. Pascal Siakam. He's one of the best
future
power
All-Star.
forwards, and he's a future All-Star. He's one of the best power forwards in basketball now. Marcus Gasol, he's an established center. We know about that.
Yep.
Remember what happened in the 2014 NBA Finals? Can somebody remind me of that really quickly? Kawhi Leonard beat the Miami
he did.
Heat
He did.
single-handedly by himself with an old Tim Duncan and Tony Parker is still really good in that series, I will say. An older Ginobili, and it was really him shutting down LeBron and embarrassing him in that series. Now he's on the Raptors. These guys have the depth that we know about. They've got Van Fleet. Well, they lost DeLon Wright, but now they have OG Anunoby, who's still playing really well. Serge Ibaka. All these guys are good players, and they're well coached. I think Nick Nurse has potential to be a good coach in this league for a long time. And I think that they can be a real monster in the playoffs. And I see them, if they face the Warriors in the finals, I mean, if anybody's going to lock up Kevin Durant, it's Kawhi Leonard or Giannis Antetokounmpo. So that kind of speaks to your Bucks point. But Yanni, go ahead.
Let's not forget about 2017 at Golden State. I can't remember which round it was, but
I think it was the finals.
If it was the Western Conference Finals, Kawhi had the Spurs up by 25 before leaving with that injury that he fell on Zaza's foot.
I hate Zaza.
Hate Zaza with a firing passion. But besides this point, Kawhi has the ability to beat the Warriors, and that can't be looked down upon at all.
Nothing you guys are saying is wrong, but I'm not sold on Lowry's health, and I'm not sold on Kawhi's health either. He's been out a lot of games this season, and they've been holding him back-to-back as well. And I know playoff games aren't back-to-back, but they for safety reasons or for anything, I don't think Kawhi Leonard's fully healthy. He's having a great year. It's not his best year, and I'm just not sold on them being better than the Rockets, OKC, Denver, because of location, and especially the Bucks as well.
What other than the location gives you a reason to be scared of Denver in the playoffs?
Well, they clearly have. Well, first of all, same with this applies to Milwaukee too. They need to prove themselves in the playoffs. They need to do other. Both teams are having great records now, but Denver didn't even make the playoffs last year, and Milwaukee fell out of the first round of the last 2 or 3 years in the East. So both these teams need to prove themselves. But Denver specifically, they're a younger team than Milwaukee, but I'm not confident that if Denver has home court advantage, that any team can beat them in 7 series. I think the altitude is just too much for any team in there.
Well, we'll figure that out for ourselves when we go to Denver.
Yeah, I know.
In April.
We can test my theory about that, and that'll be right around playoff time too.
Yeah, we'll be watching it firsthand.
Yeah, that's true. So again, I like your Raptors point. I'm not saying anything's wrong. Kawhi Leonard's a great player, but again, I'm not sold on them. And the Raptors also play really well without Kawhi too. They beat the Warriors both times this season, and one of them was out Kawhi at Oracle Arena.
Yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah, it was a great game.
So the next team I want to get to is the Thunder. I really like that you brought them up because year in and year out, really over the past 5 years, every single Warriors-Thunder game has been an event. And with Paul George added into the mix playing at an MVP level, the Thunder are looking only more likely to beat them. So I really like that take. I think they have good potential.
Yeah, the Thunder I don't want to say deserve, but they deserve a championship. They've had ups and downs throughout 10 years now, and I think this is the year. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but at least in recent years, this is the year that they can, depending how Paul George plays and Russell Westbrook obviously too, and how the other players too. Yeah, they can steal it from
one
them.
guy who I think deserves more recognition for that team is Jeremy Grant. He's really been stepping up.
He's a great defensive player.
He's a phenomenal defensive player. He's been stepping up a little bit more as of late as a scorer. Mm-hmm. He can rebound, and he just provides great energy that really coincides well with guys like Russell Westbrook.
They have that great chemistry. They really do. Not that any of those teams don't, but I like OKC especially because Russell Westbrook, he has been shooting the ball more recently in the last 10 games, and he's shooting better from three than he was earlier in the season. But I think Russell Westbrook understands his role as a facilitator more than a 40-point scorer.
Than he ever has.
Because he has Paul George, who's absolutely having a breakout season.
My last point before we wrap up today. If none of these teams can beat the Warriors, the NBA's broken. Just cancel it, and we can just watch the WNBA.
WNBA has been pretty good this year, so I'm not against that. That about wraps it up for us on the Hoopcats podcast. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Yanni Kokoris and Matt Erb. It's always a pleasure doing this with you guys. And before we sign off, rest in peace, Rocky. I miss you so much. You don't even know. Have a good night, everybody, I guess. Is that a good way to end it? I don't know.
Yeah, shout out Ben.
Shout out Ben Strawbridge, our producer. This man puts in hours. He's a great producer. We are very appreciative of him. Good night, and thank you.